Let's continue with that theme. European economic powerhouse Germany has said it will give around $800 million to help South Africa reduce its dependence on coal. The overall vision is to secure some $8.5 billion from both global financial institutions and private investors to promote renewable energy sources in the country. Joining us to explain the significance of the move is powerhouse CEO Thembani Bukula. Mr. Bukula, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Perhaps let's start with your understanding of this initiative, please.
Thank you. My understanding of the initiative is that it's going to be grants and loans that would be given to the South African government to find ways of moving away from using coal as a primary source of electricity generation, and that those funds will be used into things like repurposing the existing power stations, like changing them from using coal to using gas, or changing them from using coal to using solar PV systems or similar systems, and then also enhancing the transmission infrastructure to enable it to accommodate these different forms of energy.
South Africa, more than 90% of our electricity comes from coal-fired plants. Firstly, why has it taken so long for South Africa to transition? Has it always been about the money?
It has always been about the money, the cost of the renewable energies, as well as their, I don't want to call it reliability, as well as their ability to supply power 24/7. Even the countries that are going to be giving South Africa this money, Germany itself still has more than 20% of its power generated from coal. The US, the UK, France, they still have some elements of coal. So it's about having a plan that may be long drawn in cases of South Africa where your alternatives are not that cheap nor secure. That is the key.
The continent as a whole contributes the least to carbon emissions and climate change. What has been your assessment of how this works? Should we be the ones to carry the burden?
I think because we generate more than 60% of the electricity that is used in the continent, and that 60%, 90% of it is coal. I think it's appropriate to start here. The other parts of the continent are in a better position to be able to start generating or getting generation capacity from renewable energy sources. So for them, there's a different grant that would be appropriate to enhance their electricity generation. For South Africa, we already have these coal plants. Some of them can be repurposed. Some of them can be made cleaner by putting scrubbers or flue FDGs to just make them pollute less. So I think it's appropriate that it starts here. And the rest of the continent, in other places, the biggest generation comes from hydro schemes, so they don't really need it as much as South Africa needs it.
I'd like for us to discuss other initiatives around climate change on the continent in terms of the work that is being done. But with this money that, Germany and other countries are pledging to give to South Africa to move away from coal, do you perceive that it will go where it needs to go, that money that is?
It is likely that it will go where it needs to go because we have a generation capacity shortage, and we have the power stations that have to be decommissioned because they've reached the end of their life. They are unreliable, and they also are not environmentally friendly. So it is likely that it will go to where it has to go because there's a need for it to go there. If we had a reliable generation system and maybe we thought that we could prolong those power plants to generate longer, maybe it would be misdirected. But in this case, we have a shortage of generation and we have an unreliable plant, so it better go where it needs to go.
It better go where it needs to go. Are there lessons that South Africa can draw from other countries on the continent? We take a look at ambitious projects like the Desert to Power initiative, the world's largest solar power zone and renewable energy powerhouse, right down to innovative ways of staving off climate change in places like Kenya, for instance.
The beauty of the renewable energies is that it's new to everyone. It's not just new to Africa, it's new to Europe, it's new to Germany, it's new to... They may be 5 or 2, 3 years away, but it's not like they're 30 years ahead of everyone. So the beauty of it is that it's new to everyone. So innovative solutions are going to be discovered by others well ahead of the others. And Africa is best positioned for that because it has the necessary resources to generate power from renewable energies.
It's new to everyone. There may be 5 or so years ahead of us. But if we were to give ourselves timelines, what do you perceive should be done there?
The first one is the part around the decommissioning of these power stations. And once they are decommissioned, you are then able to get into contracts. I think natural gas would be a good solution for some of the plants to augment and enhance or support the renewable energies, because there also is a limitation around your solar PV that when the sun is not shining, then you are not generating electricity. So you need that support from natural gases. But the first point of call is that because these are already in places where the transmission infrastructure is in place, so you are not going to have to build additional transmission lines to connect the new power that you are generating, which is what's happening with the new power plants from renewables. Building renewables in the existing sites is going to make the time it takes to build and connect to the system much shorter.
So our government has said the money would help it deliver a more ambitious pledge to reduce emissions by 2030. Are we being realistic?
I think we're being realistic. If you look at the integrated resources plan, it already had indicated that we'll be decommissioning some of the stations starting in 2022. Some are already not in operation, like your Grootvleis and the Camdens. And getting a plan in action that would enable us to do this within the next 9 years is doable, because to build a renewable energy power plant, say 100 megawatts, is a project that will take you between 6 and 9 months, or even 18 months if you are stretching it.
Mr. Pukula, I'd like to get your sense around this, right? So much is being said about climate change. It's the hot topic at the moment. Do you perceive, though, that, all this information that is sitting up here is actually going down to ground level and getting participation from citizens on the ground in terms of what it is that we can also do to reduce our carbon footprints?
I think there's parts of the information that gets filtered down to grassroots levels. I remember when I was at the regulator, when we would have public hearings around the building of these plants, the participation by the communities who are involved in these things via trusts and are stakeholders or shareholders of these projects, they were quite aware and quite informed about what's happening. Whether then the information gets transformed to them using that information in a way that reduces the emissions or in a way that is environmentally friendly may be another story. But awareness, I think it is there. It may not be to the full level, but it's to the required level.
Thembani Bukula is the CEO of PowerX. Thank you, sir, for your time this afternoon.